Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Studio 78 podcast. I am your host, Nache from NacheSnow.com. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I have an amazing guest on today, Azhelle Wade. I had so much fun talking to her. I actually want to make a toy now. Of course I do, right? Anyway, even if you do not want to sell your own toy, it still is such a great episode to listen to because she gives practical tips that I think can be applied to any product based business. Also, I just love hearing about her story, which we get into towards the end of the episode a little bit more, a little bit at the beginning, a little bit at the end, because she actually decided to go full time during COVID. So she discusses why she made that choice. Anyway, before we jump right into it, you guys know the drill. If you've listened before, if you love this episode, please share, share, share. And also you can find the show notes for this page at nachesnow.com/117 because there are several links we mentioned in this episode. If you are on Apple Podcasts, please go over there and rate me 5 stars if you enjoy the podcast. And also, of course, if you're listening on YouTube, if you can give me a thumbs up. And wherever you're listening, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Okay. And last but not least, if you haven't already, check out my Skillshare course and teaching you how to be more productive. You can go to nachesnow.com/Skillshare. If you're not already a Skillshare member, you can get, I believe it's still 3 months free. So you can literally watch my course for free right now. And I am working on another course too. So stay tuned, my friends. Anyway, let's get back into this episode. We talk about a little bit of everything: market research, how to develop your ideas, navigating patents if they're needed or not needed, and licensing. We talk about strategic marketing, what goes into a Sizzle videos, NDAs, what they are, who uses them, can you change them, all of that good stuff. So there's a lot of meat in this episode, and she was just a joy to talk to. And I think you guys will really, really enjoy this episode. And of course, since she is a newly full-time entrepreneur, I asked that question that you guys always want to know, is like how she navigated health insurance. So we have a good, robust conversation about that too. So please let me know what you think about the episode. You can leave a comment on the show notes, nachesnow.com/117, or just under the post on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and I will be sure to comment back. All right, let's get into it. Here we go. Hello, Azhelle. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
Hey, I am really, really excited because this is like an interesting niche, toys. Normally on Instagram, when people think of products, sometimes they think of like ceramics and jewelry or like home decor, but you never really hear about toys. But toys is like this huge industry, right? I don't even know the percentage of kids in America and just in the world, but I'm like, this is like an industry that isn't going anywhere. I think of jewelry and all those things, but I'm like, no, toys would be an amazing industry to break into.
Yeah, for sure. I was surprised when I first heard that this was a job. I remember one of my professors told me, because he saw I had an affinity for children's products and exhibitions, and he was like, yeah, there's a toy design major here. And I was like, that's a real job? Like, who does that? Right?
But it sounds like a fun and amazing job because you could think of anything, right? I mean, it's just something that is going to capture the attention of a child, and you can have all these colors and shapes, and really, like, your creativity can go wild. I've given people a little bit of an intro, but how did you become the toy coach?
Oh, how did I become the toy coach? That's not where I thought you were going with that.
I mean, what's that story leading up to becoming a toy coach?
Well, the story was I worked in the toy industry for 10 years, And I climbed up and across the ladder. I tell people, like, I started off actually in kind of new product development and innovation. And I acquired a few patents for my ideas. And then I moved on to do a little bit more in product development and design at my next job. And then from there, I ended up in a leadership position for design. And from there, I grew to like a product development leadership position. And eventually I made it all the way up to VP of brand and product at a company that focused in arts and crafts products. And yeah, and I had my career so far has been amazing. It's been super fun. I always keep myself busy doing different things, but I definitely reached a point where I had built this awesome brand management team of all these really talented women, and I loved supporting them and watching them grow and teaching them things. But I just really got to a point where I'm like, I want to do more and have a bigger impact. And it's crazy because when you first start out, you're like, you get so excited. You're like, oh, my product's in this store. And like, I'm so excited about that. And it's so cool. And and I still would send like links to all my friends and followers, like, look, my product's in stores. How cool. But at some point, it all gets so cyclical that you're like, you get bored of it. You're like, again, like, of course, this year I'm working on another item and yay, it gets placed. And like, but it just feels, like you're kind of treading water.
Right.
Right. So what happened was I started my podcast just to kind of put all my thoughts about the toy industry into one place and thoughts that my friends were having, and just so that I could stay focused in the industry. And people started to reach out to me, and I just realized there were opportunities there. There's like an opportunity here. And I just thought it would allow me to challenge myself because I'd be taking on a lot more risk and responsibility than I normally have to take on as a VP at a toy company, because my only focus was really product development and design and maybe a little bit of marketing and merchandising. But if I did this on my own, I would have to like help grow a bunch of different aspects of a business from scratch. I realized that I could take like my experience being a leader and my experience in the toy industry and combine it and become this inspiration and guiding light for people that are outside of the industry to hopefully grow this industry.
So, weird random question. Do you find that the people that you're coaching, are they folks who are like, oh my God, I've always had like this dream to be a toy maker and I have all these ideas? Or is it someone who's like, oh my God, I just woke up and I was like playing with, my kid, my niece, my whoever, and I just have an idea?
It is definitely usually the people who have had an idea for a while, and maybe they've even started in some form to develop that idea, and they reach a stopping point, or they don't know which way to go, or they're not sure where to spend their resources. But then also on the other side, it's actually people that have fully developed products that are looking to understand the marketing aspect of it all. So I get people from both sides. It's really interesting. Yeah, so it's a little bit of both.
There's so many toys out there, right? And maybe this is a little bit of a pep talk you can give for maybe the people who are listening who are like, so I have this idea, but there's so many toys out there. Can I really get my toy on the shelves? Like, what would you say to those folks?
I would say, the first thing I would say is, well, there's two things. Okay, I have a lot of things to say. I have a lot of things to say. The thing is, people tend to think too big. Like everybody always immediately goes to Target, right? To Walmart or something. That's where your head goes. And that is like the championship. Like that's the game you want to win in the long run. But that's not where you start. You should start grassroots, small mom and pop shops, and then you can even, if you get placement there, you can grow into just regional versions of these bigger stores. There are buyers that control sales regionally, so that maybe this product is at the Target in New York City, but it won't be at the Target in California or something like that. So you can think of it that way. I would say first, just think small, start small. And even before you start thinking store, I would start thinking craft store or start thinking online, start thinking crowdfunding, because what everybody wants, what all the buyers want is just an assurance that this is a product that A, has some sort of following, or B, has some sort of proof of concept.
Mm-hmm. Now that perfect advice makes total sense. And before we get into some just more practical advice for like maybe some future toy creators out there, for you, what's your kind of style of toys, I guess? Like what are some of the things that you've created and put out there?
I'm like the tween queen, I should say. I'm like my whole career has been very focused on girl activity crafts. And I just like that would include stuff like beading and painting and fabric crafts, things like that. That's been a huge part of my career. I've done dolls and like play sets, but it's all been like, I think girls is probably my superpower. That's like the category that I'm best at, that I don't have to think about to execute. But I enjoy and love everything outside of it as well. And I love learning more about the categories that I'm not as familiar with, like action figures. I enjoy getting into the development of like games. It's so much fun and so intricate and a different way to think. So yeah, but for sure, like girls activity is my crowning glory. That's where all my patents are, in girls activity products.
Well, it's so interesting that you even mentioned craft because I'm like a big time crafter.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
problem. It's a
It's
problem.
never a problem. It's an opportunity. For a business.
Yes. But you know what the weird thing is it's funny, like sometimes I think when I think toy, I think what my 3-year-old or 4-year-old nieces are playing with, like dolls or cars or something like that.
Right.
I didn't even, when you said crafts, I was like, oh yeah, that is in the toy
For
category.
sure. I mean, especially, that like there's like nail art machines, like the Spin Master nail art machine, and like there's just there are braiding machines that help you braid bracelets, and the toy aspect of it can be a craft kit that is a toy because it's a thing you play with, but it can also be a physical plastic piece that helps making the crafting easier.
Wow. Now this is very eye-opening to me. Hey, look, you got me. Maybe I need the toy coach, people.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So let's say someone has an idea and they're like, okay, I have this idea. I've like kind of sketched it out. I know how it sort of works. I know some people will even build prototypes. Like my dream one day is to get the Glowforge laser cutter because I love it so much. But
yeah. Yes.
But so they have this idea, and maybe they've even done like a little prototype themselves. But then they're just like, "Well, what do I do next?" What would you tell that person? Do
Once
they
they have
go and
their
get it?
prototype.
Yeah, like once, and maybe let's say if they don't have a prototype, maybe they just have a sketch,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm scared to get a prototype made because someone might steal my idea. Do I have to get a patent first? Do I have to get
Right.
this? What's kind of like, what do you think their next steps should be?
I think market research. This is the whole first half of my course. A product, just having a finished product doesn't mean it's going to sell. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to make sure that you know that this is a product that there is a market for. And I think there's so many ways to reach out to different markets, and niching down, I think, is really important when you're first starting out. It's important in any industry, but even in the toy industry, reaching out to the right parents who are going to resonate with your toys, or reaching out to the right schools that have the kids that want to play with your products, and actually testing the concept. If you don't have a physical prototype, you can send out surveys to just find out information, like what does a kid like about maybe a product that would be a competitor to the idea that you have, or what do they not like about that product, and learn from those surveys and from online reviews what you need to improve on your product. Learn if that was improved, would they pay more for it, would they pay less, or would they not care and want to pay the same. That's the kind of research you want to do first. And I know it's hard to make contacts with buyers and stuff, and you might need to connect with salespeople or go to trade shows to do that. But if you are bold and you want to reach out directly to some buyers and try to survey and see what are you looking for your upcoming season, like what price points are you looking for, and what types of category product or toy products are you looking for? Research, I think, is just number one. Just trying to
Mm-hmm.
find information so that you're not wasting your time on something that nobody wants.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've done the real research, then you have to commit to it and make the changes required. And then you develop the item. And the way that you do that is it's pretty simple. You do your sketches. So if you're not a sketcher, you can hire someone. Once you decide on the design concept, you build out a prototype. And if you can't build it yourself, you can hire like freelancers. And there's plenty of people in the toy industry that freelance and build 3D models that you can get printed, or will physically build prototypes out of materials like clay and wood and fabric if it's plush. And then from there, when you have your prototype, I would suggest another round of little bit of testing just to make sure that everything's functioning the way you want it to function. But then you can reach out to a factory. And that's when you're doing this so that you can get pricing, so that you can find a factory willing to work within the quantity that you intend to order. So factories might have a minimum, and they might say the least you can order from us is 1,000 pieces or 500 pieces, and you need to find the factory that's the right size for your company. So once you have that prototype, you need to be finalizing the pricing of your item so that it fits all of the research you did for pricing and what customers are expecting. You need to then finalize with that factory that they have the certifications for the type of companies that you're trying to ship your product to and things like that. And other than that, you can, from there, you can go two ways. You can decide, okay, I'm going to invest and just buy X amount of product and try to sell it at toy fairs or online on my own. Or you could decide, okay, I'm going to prepare everything I need to launch this product, to almost be ready to launch it, and then do something like a Kickstarter online where you try to actually gather the people that are interested in your product, collect their emails and market to them and get them to invest in your products before you dive into production.
Mm. And I know a lot of people, there's everybody's always scared of their idea being stolen,
Yes.
even though it's funny because if someone steals your idea, they still have to do a lot of work to try to to get
Yeah,
it
that's the thing.
produced.
Yes.
but but let's say someone has this great idea that could be stolen, what should they do to protect themselves once maybe they do the surveys and do the market research and it's like something that people are really really excited about? Are there
Right.
things that they need to do before they send over their designs to a manufacturer?
Well, not everything is patentable.
Mm,
And if it's just a concept, it's probably not. And you only want a utility patent. You don't necessarily need a design patent or want a design patent. But not everything is patentable. And depending on what you're planning on doing with your concept, you may not want to patent it. You could go the route of trying to license your idea to a toy company, and you don't need to patent it in that direction. There are NDAs that protect you, and if they buy the idea, they might patent it. So you don't need to. Most, like 98% of people pitching, don't patent their ideas if they're pitching the idea to a toy company. But if you're manufacturing it yourself and you're trying to sell it yourself, most people recommend not getting a patent just because it's so cost prohibitive. It can cost you $20,000 to get a patent,
yeah, I was like, I
with
heard
like
it could be
lawyer fees and
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what you can do, and what I've heard of people doing, and I've interviewed plenty of inventors that have done this, is they'll file a provisional patent. I've done this, but I never went to the full patent afterwards, where you can file a provisional patent, and that'll cost you like $70, I think it was when I did it. And you can do that online. You can do it yourself. You can hire someone to do the illustrated drawings for that patent, because you need to have drawings showing what your product is, or pictures. And that will protect your idea for a year, giving you the time you need to try to sell it. And in that time, you can use that time to try to make money to fund your patent. If you really believe that this is a big concept, you can use that year to try to turn profit that you intend to just invest in fully patenting this product or this concept. Yeah, and then from there, so then you have more power and more control. If you have a patent, you're going to look more desirable if people are looking to license it with you. That's great. But again, the biggest thing in the toy industry is a patent's only as strong as your ability to defend it. So if somebody wants to steal your idea, and you have to sue them, and then you have to pay for all of that. One of the things I tell people is, don't let the fear of your ideas being stolen hold you back, because the inventing game, at least, is really a numbers game. You're just trying to get a bunch of ideas out there and see what sticks. And in the toy world, while in the toy world, it's really more about first to market. All you can do is try to build a very strong marketing brand behind your product, so that people relate your product with whatever the function is that's really unique. So that if somebody were to come out with and try to steal that from you, that it would be obvious, and there'd be a lot of proof showing that you had it first. That's really all you can do. And I know a lot of people hold back because they want to get a patent, but I always tell people, nobody's going to want to develop your idea more than you. And quite honestly, if a big company wants to take it over, there's not too much you can do about that. But it's worse to just not ever have your idea come to life. And then you could just see a year or two down the line that a bigger company just decided to do something very similar, and then it doesn't matter.
And I feel like even if a big company did do that and you didn't have the lawyers in order to fight them, you have the media, right? Where you could be like, hey, my toy has been in boutique stores for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
You can prove it. And X store literally stole my idea, and nobody wants bad press.
Yeah. I mean, at least there's something, but you wouldn't have that if you never even started.
Right. It's interesting, even though it's not a toy, it kind of reminds me of, I just got one of those kind of screen. It's not a screen protector, but it basically, when you're using a pen on the iPad, it makes it feel like paper. And so one of the first companies, there's several companies, but one of the more well-known companies to put it out there is Paper-like, right? But
yes,
there are so many knockoffs, tons of knockoffs. However, what is the name I remember? Paper-like, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to search that. That's the one I'm going to look for. And so I think it goes back to what you were saying is, if you have a strong brand, even if there are knockoffs, you're going to be the first place people go, because you've built this community and this brand around your product.
And what you brought up is kind of another good point. The name is so important. A good, clear name when you have got something inventive, so important. Because like you're saying, if people remember what the product does should jog their memory on the name. It shouldn't be it's a pen that makes it feel like paper and the name is red telephone. That's not no one's going to remember. You need to, it's really important this is my opinion, but I think when you're small, that's why my name is the Toy Coach. I think it's very important to start with a name that is easily memorable, that works great with SEO, that explains exactly what you do or what your product does.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's that's almost in every industry, right? It just helps you become more discoverable.
Yeah, and memorable. So important.
I also wanted to ask you about licensing, because this is huge. I was just listening to another podcast the other day that was just talking about that, and she's more of an illustrator. But licensing, I feel like it's become huge, right? It was always big, but I feel like just more, even small brands have really leaned into licensing and are finding ways to make money through that, which saves them a little bit of time and money as far as trying to create something themselves. So just curious about your thoughts when it comes to licensing, your toy ideas.
Oh, yeah. I think licensing is the way to go. Yeah, no, if you can do it, it's definitely the way to go. In the toy industry, so that's what I was saying with inventors. You have the opportunity to come up with a concept, take it all the way to prototype stage, build a beautiful either presentation with a deck or a video, like a Sizzle video, showing how that idea works, and then you can pitch it directly to toy companies. And every toy company works a little bit different. Some people work with agents instead of trying to go directly to toy companies. But essentially, there's usually some form of NDA that protects both parties if there's no specific patent involved. And what will happen is you can talk to a toy company and pitch your idea. And if they're interested, you get to negotiate a percentage of royalty just for them to take that concept and then mass produce it. And I think it's the best way to go if you can do it. I'm excited to try to do those things now that I'm independent, to try to do a little bit of that, because you can't do that when you're working in the industry full time. So I'm really excited to explore that world more from the other perspective of an inventor, because I've been on the other side as the person who's receiving the stuff from the inventors. But it's looking at the deals that are made, like you'll get an allowance that you have to negotiate and percentage royalties. And it's just so much more feasible to make mailbox money, to make rolling income without passive income. So I think it's definitely a path to go if you're feeling, I don't want to invest in like a $20,000 mold, or I don't want to invest.
Right.
Yeah. So I would say what I'm thinking of for myself is, if you're looking to license toy ideas, but you also want to be a toy entrepreneur, just think about the balance. There are some toy products that are really expensive to make, and there are some toy products that are really cheap to make. So you just want to think that maybe you want to license the invention ideas that you have that would be much more expensive molds, much more expensive investments to create the product, or much more expensive to market. And then maybe the ideas that are more fabric-based or craft-based or simpler pieces of plastic that wouldn't require such intricate molds, maybe those are the ones that you explore as an entrepreneur and really invest in and really try to market and sell yourself.
I love it. And then to make sure that people understand two things you mentioned, the NDA is the non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah. Yes. No, and an NDA is just, sometimes people get so hung up on the NDAs. They're usually designed to protect the company more than they are to protect you and your product. I would just say read everything very closely. Make sure that you label the items that you are passing on to these companies as confidential. How they have those, like a red bar says like, this is confidential information, not to be shared or whatever. Put that on every page. That's what my only caveat and recommendation. But just so you know, like the NDAs that you're going to get from toy companies are pretty much saying, just so you know, we get toy ideas all the time, and your idea could be similar to an idea we've seen before.
Of course, right.
In that case, your idea is your idea and our idea is our idea. Thanks. It's like, so just know that.
Like, wait a minute. Yeah. And then when you're working with manufacturers too, you can have an NDA. Now, but those NDAs, do they normally come from the manufacturer, or do you provide, like you work with a lawyer to create an NDA to give to the manufacturer?
Oh no, most manufacturers, like most manufacturers / toy companies, same thing, they have the NDA. And the bigger ones are like, this is non-negotiable. Like you sign this or you don't.
Wow. So it's not like your lawyer could look at it and you can be like, no. I just need you to tweak this sentence right here.
No, smaller companies for sure. Yeah. Smaller companies, 100%. But bigger companies, no, it's not going to happen.
Okay. And then also the other thing you mentioned was like a Sizzle video, which is, to me, but definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but on Kickstarter, I look at the videos that they put out is like those Sizzle videos. Ooh, look what you could have, right? Like it's showing how it works. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. It's like a 2-minute video that just gets straight to the point. You got to think these people are looking over like 100 ideas. So what will catch their attention and make them feel like, oh, this is something new and interesting and different, and what will help them envision, because you have to think toy companies aren't just making unbranded toys, but they're also making licensed toys. So if your concept can lend itself to licenses, sometimes it's good to show that in a Sizzle video. I'm a big proponent of adding anything into your Sizzle video that will help people visualize your toy as a part of their line. There are many people out there that believe differently, that you shouldn't overdevelop the design, that you should keep it simple. But I guess because I come from a design background, but also have been the executive VP who is going through these submissions, depending on the day, I might not be in a creative space. And so a submission that shows me visually what it could be could jog an idea or get my creative juices flowing or get me excited when I don't have time to do that before I say no. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And then just before we wrap up, just like switching gears for a second. So for you, are you like 100% your own business and you no longer work for another company?
Yes, I am 100% an entrepreneur. I no longer work for a
Woo!
specific toy company. Yeah.
So I just have to ask you because I have the listeners know, like, I have a variety of people on, like, people who are like, I just want a side business, side hustle, what
Right.
have you,
Yeah.
and I love my 9 to 5. And then other people who are like, no, I'm working my 9 to 5, but it is to one day own my business. And then there are
Right.
people who come on who own their own. And so for you, it's a huge leap. So I'm just curious what that looked like for you and how you had the courage and confidence to make that jump.
Yeah. So I actually made the leap during the pandemic.
Whoa.
Yeah, I sure did. That's what happened. Well, what happens is we all work so that we can afford to live a certain lifestyle, right?
Right.
And I think what happened for me in the pandemic is I realized how little I needed to live financially, right?
Yeah.
When you're home and you're not paying tolls and you're not eating out and it just made me realize how I was actually limiting how you hear it all the time. And like, if you read financial podcasts, you hear it. People say you can cut back on this and cut back on that. But until it was forced on me. And I was like, oh, wow, like my savings account is growing exponentially. That's insane. Like, how did this happen? Right. So when that happened, I was like, wow, it just really made me realize the cycle of like earning and spending and earning and spending. And it was like a little disheartening. It was like, okay, what am I gaining from this? And I just got to a point where I felt like I could learn a lot more if I was independent because I would be free to do a lot more. In the toy industry, everyone has like their NDAs and their non-competes, and you can't do this and you can't do that. So you're really limited. And when you're so busy, you don't notice how limited you are. But I thought about it and I'm like, I could do a lot of just random things in the toy industry if I were independent. And then realizing staying home means I have more savings was like, okay, I don't, need to bring in X amount of money. I can actually just bring in X amount of money and be okay. So I did have to be prepared to take a pay cut when I knew I was going to be working for myself and I was going to have to find for sources of income and all that. But the opportunities that were just coming naturally, it was like, if I don't take this leap now, I'm never going to do it. Because as soon as everything goes back to normal, I'm going to get back in a cycle and I'm going to forget about how this felt and my priorities are going to shift. And I really enjoy working for myself. I enjoy controlling my day, as scary as it is. I do enjoy it.
I mean, and so the biggest question I always from this podcast to the other podcasts I got with the fashion trucks is a lot of people are scared to take the leap, and it's always weird because it's always this one thing that hangs them up, but health insurance.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was a huge. So I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually a cancer survivor.
Oh, so, I did not know that.
Yeah, so health insurance was a big deal for me, for sure. But my mom took the reins on it for me. Isn't that terrible? I'm like 32 years old. But I told my mom like what I was gonna do, and I was freaking out because like the options for Cobra were limited just because of the type of package I had with my employer. And my mom was like, I got this. And I was like, okay. She was like, send me your information. And I was like, okay. And next thing I knew, I had health insurance. So
you gotta love mom. Gotta love mom.
Yeah, gotta love mom. So I kind of have like a combo, like health insurance and my old Cobra, like what I could afford to take and stuff. And it's definitely going to be a battle, but you know, I mean, like maybe I'll get married to my boyfriend. I could take his health insurance. Like we don't know. But I mean, I didn't it actually I think it turned me a little bit more even more liberal because when I tried to leave and I realized how scared I was because of the health insurance, I was like, why
Yeah.
didn't Bernie win? Like I'm just like I want universal health care now because now I need it, right? It's terrible. It's like so terrible. But
But it's so cute. I tell you, like that is one, like through the years, that is the number one fear people always have because they're like, there's not many choices out here, and some of the best choices are just so expensive. It's okay, will I be able to make enough money in order to pay for this premium insurance for small business owners? So, yeah, no,
But then it
I
also
get it.
becomes if you make little enough, then you can qualify for some other types of insurance. So
Oh, right. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
yeah, there's ways. You can't there's ways. You got to just talk to a lot of people and call everywhere and have a separate cell phone so that when they keep calling you for the next 8 months, it's like a dead number. But call all the insurance, call everyone, try everything. Like it's not an easy feat. Like it's horrible. I wish our system was better. Yeah.
But I love it because taking a leap is scary, but I believe like when you believe in yourself and you have like the courage to do that, that is amazing. So I'm like,
Yeah.
kudos to you. And I hope like that the people in the audience that want to create toys definitely sign up for your academy. And
Yes,
so
Toy Creators Academy.
yeah, so I'm like, before I get into the wrap up questions, can you just talk about that? Because people might be
Yeah.
like, I love her. How do I learn more from her? So can you talk a little bit about the academy?
Yes, wait, can I say one more thing about health insurance? Because I just
Oh,
remembered something that
for
someone told me,
sure.
and I want to give this out in case it would help someone. So I was freaking out about health insurance, and somebody told me about, and of course I can't remember the exact name, but I'm sure if you Google this, you can figure it out. So someone told me that there are actually group health plans out there that it's not health insurance. It's almost like a bunch of people get together and like organize their own health plan. And I think the one she told me about was called Liberty Group Health or something, not Liberty Insurance, like a separate kind of individualized system. They're really
Mm.
religion based, but if you are religious or if you just can accept that she was telling me, and this was someone from my doctor from my acupuncturist office was telling me that it's so much more affordable. I think $100 or something a month. And
Oh.
yeah, so it sounds like almost like it's group made your universal healthcare. You know what I mean? Like a bunch of people get together and they pool in this money. I have to look more into that, but maybe I can find a link to give you or something. That was just, I feel like you just have to keep asking people questions and finding out because there's so many ways around this and so many other ways that people don't know about. And I learned like asking, I would uncover like, oh, there's an option for me and this is an option. And I just think you have to keep asking everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember some of and people, if I find them, I'll definitely add the links to the show notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every few episodes I'll ask people that, and some people are like, "Ooh, still figuring it out," and then other people
Yeah.
have given like a company here or there. But I think you're right. It's just joining Facebook groups with small businesses and asking the
And
question,
asking
Googling.
doctors' offices.
Yeah, what insurance do they take? That's usually from small businesses
Yeah.
or people who are entrepreneurs. Yeah, but it's being curious and just asking all the time.
And if you have a major condition like I did, some hospitals have financial assistance. So there's that option too. Like you have to just ask because that's how I found out about the financial assistance options that I used back in the day when I was diagnosed. So it's just literally
Mm.
asking and applying and hoping you get it and stuff. So yeah.
But it's yeah, you just figure it out. But I
Mhm.
remember asking one guest about it, and she's never let something like that hold you up for your dreams because if you really want to
Yeah.
do something, you will figure out how to make it work. You know, and
Yeah.
I think because it's yes, 100% important, but you will
Yeah.
do the research. And she was
Figure it
also
out.
saying you will make sure that like it kind of makes you hungry, right? Like you're going to make sure
It
that you
does.
make enough income in order to pay whatever you need to pay for the health
That is
insurance that you
very
need.
true. So true. Yeah, very true. Or at some point, you're just like, I'll just take the bronze insurance, and if anything happens, I'll just pay for it because that's better too. Because sometimes it's so expensive. I'll just save that money and then pay for health insurance, like pay for what I need. I mean, like, but yeah.
That was great advice. So people, if you're thinking about making the jump, start doing your research now.
And ask people, don't just Google. Literally ask like your doctor's office, or if you go to a natural doctor, because those people, that's where I go. Those people are a little bit more like hip, so they know all the things, ask.
Yeah, and I feel like there's things that supplement it too. Like even out in DC, it's like it's called Forward, but basically it's like a health company that was created by techies, and so you pay like $150 a month, and that basically covers like of course, if something is like seriously wrong, like they'll send you to specialists. So they say you need some kind of supplemental insurance. But other than that, you pay $150 a month to see a real doctor, and they'll do physicals every year. If you have a cold, they'll do all the normal stuff. So there's ways to make it work. Yeah.
Yes. America's a mess, but okay.
I mean, yeah, we're not even right, because other countries, right? That's not even an issue.
No, it's
because they're covered. They are covered.
Yeah, man.
But yes, please tell people about the Academy.
Yes. So, Toy Creators Academy. I built Toy Creators Academy to help people non-toy people start, develop, pitch their toy ideas. The course is designed to help you do all the things that are important when you first have a toy idea. Test the concept, survey the market, find the white space, make sure that it's really something that the market wants, and then find partners to create your first prototype with, and then find a factory to create your first real factory sample with. Develop your pitch language, which is super important so that you can market your product, whether that's online or with trade shows or at craft fairs if you want to just start testing it on the bottom of the tree and like the low end. Yeah, so that's what I'm building right now. So I'm just putting together everything I've learned over the years, what I've taught myself. I had to teach myself how to develop toys because I really didn't have a toy mind when I first started it all. And all the tips I've just learned working with factories in China, I'm putting that all into a course, and it's going to be 6 weeks long in which you have that time with me and to go through all of the modules. And then obviously after that, you're going to keep developing. So I'm going to have an opportunity for you to extend your time to work with me just ongoing so that you can get ongoing support from me and from a whole community of other toy creators from Toy Creators Academy.
No, and I would imagine too, it's good to have this community because even as we're still going through the pandemic, it's weird because sometimes you'll hear people be like, yeah, we're in the next phase. No, the first phase never really ended. But while we're like still in this pandemic, I think it's good to have this group of people that you can talk to because I'm assuming like manufacturing is different, right? Like I remember right in the midst, like in the beginning of COVID, you couldn't even really get things from overseas, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was just crazy, and people were trying to find like all these workarounds and all of this stuff. And so I would imagine having a community where you're like, oh yeah, I use this person and this person seems to still be, you know what I'm saying? But you can have those conversations and you can share those resources with like-minded people so you can figure out how to stay afloat even in a crisis.
Yes, exactly. And just to feel motivated, I feel like some people, the world is so filled with all of these instant success stories, or they look like instant success stories. And it's a long road building a brand and trying to build a product that everyone's going to love and that eventually a major retailer is going to take. So I feel people need ongoing motivation and support. Like, you're doing the right thing. Just keep on trucking. What have you accomplished this week, this month? And let's keep on task.
Well, I will definitely put a link in the show notes for the Toy Creators Academy because right now they can join for like early access, correct?
Yes, yeah. So at toycreatorsacademy.com, you can sign up right now to be on the early access list. You'll also get a bunch of onboarding emails, just a little bit more about the Academy. And from there, you'll get notified before everyone else, and you'll get an amazing discount and be part of my kind of like my founders group. So you'll get to lead what things are discussed. I will have the modules uploaded one module every week. So after the first week, you can give your feedback and say, "Oh, I want to know more about this or that," and we can adjust the program to fit your needs. So for doing that and for being a part of that, you'll get an amazing discount for this course.
Nice. Okay, so just a few wrap-up questions. How do you stay organized? Any tools, software, techniques you would recommend?
Yes. So I just found a new I just found a new software. Well, one, I love Post-its, like physical Post-its. They're like,
Oh, yeah.
if you could see my desk, like they're everywhere. It's ridiculous. I have a problem. But aside from that, I have just discovered this app called ClickUp. And
Yes!
I love it. Do you use it?
I do use it because I couldn't get into Asana, and it just seemed too complicated, where ClickUp just seemed easier a little bit.
Yeah.
But yes,
so
go
I was
ahead.
in Trello. I was in Trello, and you know Trello.
Yes. Because Trello is, and it's so weird. I used to use Trello for a while, and then I stopped, and I used ClickUp. And then even recently I downloaded Trello because for, this one project I'm working on, it's more image based, where I needed like mood boards almost, which I wouldn't necessarily use ClickUp for, but I guess maybe I could sort of.
Yeah, it has the board view.
That is true. But I just like how ClickUp is just, I don't know, it's just easier to use than Trello, than Asana, than all of them. But yes, go for it.
Amazing. I mean, honestly, I've literally only been using it a week. Like, it's brand new. But I love it. The only thing that's a little tricky with ClickUp is I have a business. I have separate like clients and separate people that are like VAs and social media person. So I don't want everyone seeing everything. And at first, it's not as obvious like with the other platforms who sees what. Mm-hmm. So you have to just play around with that first. And I was like calling people, "Show me your screen. What are you seeing?" To make sure no one's seeing the wrong thing. I got secrets. Other than that, though, what's awesome about it is it can be whatever you want it to be, but it starts off being very list based. So you have your workspace, and on the left hand side, you've got a list of your projects. That's how I use it. Or your like categories like social media, PR, Toy Creators Academy is one. And when you click inside of that, it breaks it down into a list, and you get to decide what the stages of that list are. Like, is it in progress? Is it open? Is it in review? You get to make all of those labels up. And then once you make those labels up, it just organizes all of your tasks by those labels, and you set due dates and you assign people to them. And what I love, love, love is how ClickUp is sending me emails. Like today, it sent me an email and it was like 3 tasks due. And it's a beautiful white, clean email that is easy for me to read the tasks that are due. And it's just like, I love it. I love it so much.
Oh yeah, ClickUp is on it. It's like, you need to do these things, and it's like, oh yeah, I did say I was going to do these things by this date.
I'm still figuring out like how to not get notified when my virtual assistant should be notified, but I'll get there. But yeah, like I'm getting notified on her tasks. But this is just, I love it. It's so much. You can relate tasks to say this task can't get done until this task is done. And I mean, it's just incredible. I have just scratched the surface of what it can do, but it can connect with Zoom and your Google Drive, and it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, and I feel like there's some good like little tutorials out there too, like quick tutorials. Yeah,
it's free, and it's like the paid version is $5 a month. It is nothing.
It's super cheap. Exactly.
So cheap. It's amazing. I love it. So ClickUp is my jam. And I mean, I use a ton of other tools like HubSpot and what is it? Oh yeah, HubSpot to check emails to make sure people are. If I know, so I can know if they're checking my emails or when. Calendly, I check statuses of products with Amazon, like an Amazon plugin called Amazon Scout. I check SEO with a plugin called Uber Suggest. I use a ton of tools. My Chrome looks insane. So
I know. I feel like Chrome has the best plugins.
They do. The plugins are on point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got so many.
And then, do you have a hobby?
Yes, I am a salsa y bachata dancer. I mean, not
Ah.
anymore, but yeah, I'm a salsa and bachata dancer. I was on a dance team for years and they tried to switch virtual, but I'm just not feeling it. Hopefully, when things resume, I'll do another dance team. And I would travel all over the country and actually outside of the country to perform at these like salsa and bachata events. And I would also,
Wow.
yeah, it's so fun. And I would also bring I also have a costume company called Customize Me. So I would bring my clothes to these events and then sell these products at my events. It was so fun.
Oh, look at you. Wow. Okay. See,
Yeah.
people, multi-passionate. It doesn't hurt to have a couple of businesses under your
Yeah.
hat.
I learned a lot from Customize Me for sure. Yeah.
And then please just tell the listeners where to find you.
Ah, find me at thetoycoach.com. That is the easiest URL to remember, thetoycoach.com, or at the Toy Coach on Instagram, at the Toy Coach on Facebook, at the Toy Coach on Twitter. Got all of the TikTok. I got them all. So
Nice. Smart.
the Toy Coach everywhere.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
What did I tell you guys? What an amazing episode. Literally, after listening back to this episode, I'm like, do I want to make a toy? It sounds a little crazy, but you guys know I'm a big time crafter. So I always have ideas for crafters, tools that they can use, things that people can put on into their journals or attach to different things. And so really she opened my eyes to what, or shall I say, how toys are defined, because it really encompasses so much when it comes to the craft industry. And you guys know I am knee deep in that industry. Anyway, so we'll see. But I just think that the advice that she provided was golden, very practical. I think if you just take action on what she has told us today, you can really start to get your toy or whatever product it is out there to the market and really see if it has a chance. And if you need assistance, I would definitely sign up for her academy, because me personally, I like her style. It's clear she knows her stuff. And I think her program would just be an amazing program to go through with other like minded entrepreneurs looking to do the same thing. Plus, her providing the advice that she's learned from working in the industry for over a decade. And anyway, I would love to hear what you guys think about this. And if you have an idea that you've been holding on to that maybe you've decided to now go for, I would love to hear it. Email me, hit me up on social media. I would just love to hear your story. And of course, to get the show notes for this page, you can go over to nachesnow.com/117. It has all of her links and all the links that were mentioned in this episode. And if you love this episode or you think someone needs to hear this episode, sharing is caring, my friends. Please share away. Rate me 5 stars wherever you're listening, or a thumbs up. And if you're a first time listener, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Until next week, my friends, talk to you later. Bye.